still asleep. Wakey, wakey, Aractogeno and Bakey. Eyes up, cadets.
Welcome back to Sci-Fi Chronicles, everybody. Hey, I'm here with my good friend Gary Akers. How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm good, John. It's good to join you for another barefoot walking over hot coals that is our weekly Starfleet Academy discussion.
Yeah, and everybody will probably realise this is a few days late. It's because I've been back to Kasq to have myself uploaded and fixed in the holographic realm. So
John has relived his entire life, just like Sam in the. And I tried to parent him, during the last week, but I eventually gave up when I realized there's no hope.
Well, I'm sure as it is, but everyone's got an image now of Gary like in black and white, just like lifting a little me as a baby up.
That's right. And then just looking to the camera going,
how did it come to this? So here we are.
This show is draining my will to live, John.
Look, we've come this far. This is episode 8. We've got 2 to go, mate. Then we get paroled out of it.
You know what? Actually, I'm sorry. I forgot to ask you, John. How are you feeling today? Because it's all about feelings. We're going to be talking about how we're feeling. It's because that's what it's all about now. It's
my blood boils every time I hear it. It's like I'm a Vulcan going through pond fire at this point, because it's so bad. I mean, we start the episode, okay? So we get this melancholy doctor watching the sun come up. I really don't like this at all because what I love about Voyager is I love the fact that the doctor is always optimistic for the bulk of it. And he loves his, he loves singing his music, the opera. He loves all of that. So to see him melancholic and he's very negative as you start the episode. And you're like, oh, okay, what's going on here? So they're going to break him down now, are they? So what are your thoughts on that as we start it with him?
Okay, first of all, I really actually wanted to do this recording laying on my couch, go full meta, where, I could just but I don't think my mic cord would extend that far to where I could just kind of be on the couch for the whole time. At this point, ST doesn't stand for Star Trek anymore. It stands for space therapy. Really. I mean, the fact that in a 10-episode season, John, we get not 1, but 2 episodes, which are basically just people standing around talking about their feelings. I mean, I don't even know that they want to do that if they had 26 episodes like in the old day, but to do basically 2 episodes out of 10 where it's just this navel gazing is shocking to me. I mean, we're no longer exploring strange new worlds. They're exploring their own angst. Yeah, and they're not 100%. Seeking out new life and new civilizations. They're just seeking out more about themselves because it's all about them.
100%. And I was going to say, mate, we start the episode, okay? Let's get into this bit first. So we've got Tamara, Tiramisu, or whatever she's called. She's back. So she walks in, and the first thing that I laugh at is we've got the narration from the doctor as she's walking across the academy floor. But we've got the cadets looking at her like she's scum, she's filth. Now, I could understand that, mate, if it was episode 1 or 2. But she's literally saved cadets from another ship when they were going to be eaten by cannibals.
Yep.
Why is there this sneering and looking down at her? I don't understand that. It makes no sense. And again, we've talked about it before, and I think the trouble I've got with Star Trek Academy as well is it's all out of phase. It's all out of sequence a lot of the time. It's jumping around its own timeline because I swear we've had other episodes where it's they're coming up to finishing halfway through the semester. Yeah. This is a month later after the incident with the Miyazaki. You know, and I just don't understand what they're doing. When I was watching this, I thought to myself, maybe that the production team had just decided that they wanted to put this episode, you know, originally it was going to be after the Miyazaki one. With regards to this, it looks like at one point you think they've shifted it, but then they say, oh, it's a month later. So they've clearly not. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like they can't figure out where to put episodes, or they're jumping around, and I can't make sense of it. You know,
it became clear to me a couple of episodes back with one of the time references, or maybe if it was the last episode, because this series has completely distorted my sense of time. I can't even tell my own time anymore, but. That it was like a month since the Miyazaki, the previous episode, not this one, the previous one was like a month after. And I thought, okay, if they're trying to have these episodes take place like a month apart, that made sense to me of what I thought at the time was a weird comment, I think in the Sam episode, where she makes some kind of offhand comment that like, oh, the semester was almost done. And I remember thinking, wait a minute, you only just started. What do you mean it's almost done? And then it became, I became aware that they were intending to have every episode take place a month apart, which means every season is a year. And I think the original plan for the series, which fingers crossed is not going to happen, is that it goes like 4 seasons, obviously, but they wouldn't all be staying at the academy for 4 seasons. They'd be out like in space doing their own thing. But the problem with that is you have like a totally incompetent writing team that doesn't think things through. It's fine on the surface to say, okay, every episode is a month apart, but then you've got to really be careful about the fact that these cadets have been experiencing things for a full month between episodes, and they're not being careful about that. You're telling me that 2 months later, they're still dealing with this trauma and they can't even function. They're getting into fights. They're blowing the simulator apart. After 2 months, I mean, if it was 2 weeks, fine. But they're not thinking about the implications of what happens, as you said, when they set these episodes so far apart.
Well, again, you know, it's a complete nonsense when they talk about, you know, they're not coping with it, because again, last week, you know, I know you can have delayed reactions, but none of them gave us stuff. They referenced the dead Vulcan cadet under 2 minutes maximum, that was. Then they were off to sunbathing in the middle of the academy, playing with warp slugs, playing toxic, non-toxic, and doing all kinds of stupid capers.
Have you, by the way, John, have you tried that game yourself? At your place, just stick your hand in various things around your house and seeing if it's toxic or non-toxic?
I have. My entire left leg is completely bright yellow right now, mate. So I'm waiting for it to go down.
But you know, the other thing about that is, you're right. There's not even a reference to I mean, wouldn't you think? Now, we have not seen the War College in the last couple episodes, but I would think actually they're the ones who should be dealing with the trauma. They're the ones who lost a teammate. They're the ones who lost one of their teachers. So why aren't they? Why
aren't they in that session? Why aren't they in it with Tilly?
So the other thing is that, isn't it weird that now the Vulcan died? Who's the Vulcan protecting? Was it Caleb that he jumped in front?
Caleb, yeah.
Has he, John, mentioned in even one sentence about how he's grappling with the guilt that guy died for him?
No,
wouldn't you think there would be some acknowledgement in the 2 months that has gone on that he's grappling with? But no,
you would think, wouldn't you?
He's sunbathing, John.
Yeah, I know. And you know what, as well, when we get this first scene with Tiramisu, or whatever she's called, I keep forgetting her name. That's how important they are that I struggle to remember their names. And we're 8 episodes in. Now, she gets there and she's talking to the doctor and Captain Nahla, who are waiting for her to turn back up. Now, I'm sticking to what I've said before, that the villain of this entire season is Captain Nahla, because she transfers her from the War College without her consent at all, and basically says, oh, you can't do the college anymore because, you know, with your condition, it could kill you. well, why are you allowing her to stay in Starfleet then? You should be medically discharging her.
Yeah,
you know,
that was a joke. I sat there thinking, okay, so here's the captain's great plan, and you know, it's not really surprising, John, if she was the one that came up with the plan, because it's just so moronic. So
yeah.
she's gonna, basically the plan is to have her avoid all conflict and all stress over anything that might ever happen in her Starfleet career. Good luck with that.
Yeah. But it's also Captain Nahla says, and this is about the War College as well. She basically says to her, she goes, "We offer counselling and support." Hang on a second then. So you're telling me that the War College don't have any counselling whatsoever?
Yes.
They basically, they just
warriors,
leave them to
John.
cry
They
on
don't
the
need
curb.
They're warriors. They don't need counseling.
Well, but this is the other thing, which is this weird split of how they've not even integrated the two yet. Because you would have thought any showrunner in previous history, if they were going to go down, not that they would do this at all, because as Brian rightly said in the first 2 episodes, nobody has ever wanted an Academy series. There is no jeopardy or arcs to an Academy series, and he's 100% correct on that. But if someone was going to do it, you imagine like a Michael Piller doing it. Michael Piller would have basically made sure it was a character of the week that was the story centered around that main character, and he would have had an arc and a development of those characters throughout the season. Yes. We get none of that in this show. And again, they don't even, the writers I'm talking about now, they don't even follow their own rules or watch their own episodes, because when Arama or Tarama, her name, whatever, when she is...
Trauma, let's just call her Trauma. Basically.
Yeah, Trauma. When she's talking, mate, they say to her, he's been given a new Betazoid device on her neck, a more powerful one.
So why are they worried
again? But also, so it doesn't happen again. The first one was fine. She ripped it out of her neck.
Yes.
That's how she could use her powers. So the device was fine. She didn't need a more enhanced one. She vandalized the device that was keeping her regulated. So it makes a load of nonsense.
And that I gotta say to the scene that you referenced, as she's walking slow-mo down the hall. And I thought to myself, you know, during that scene, I thought, I'm so tired of the slow-mo walks. Yeah, you know, we get the slow-mo walk here, and everybody's looking at her like she's a leper, you know, which tells me
scum.
Right there, they're too immature to even be there. Yeah. As you just said, she saved all of their lives. You're telling me that not one, even of the main characters, comes up to her and just say, "I want to just thank you for saving my life." Yeah. Not one. And the other thing is that, but John, who do they save all of the adulation and praise for? Of course, at the end of the episode, we'll get to it, but I'm just saying it here because it parallels. We get her walk of shame with everybody looking at her like, you know, she's on fire. But then, of course, when Sam comes in, it's all adulation and throwing rose petals and bowing down and, oh, isn't it great? It's like, I hate this show.
Yeah, it hurts my body in emotional spasms I never thought my body could do. I have said to you before, I actually thought Discovery was the worst. Now, this is getting very close. It's so close now, I'm struggling to figure out. But I think what Brian says is right, and which kind of edges Discovery being the worst, is the fact that the ship had pronouns in Discovery. That's what edges it for me against Academy at the moment. But we then get Captain Nahla talking to the Doctor, you know, where she's looking at Darham's trying to start a fight with some people, which is just a pathetic scene. And again, she says, this is her quote. She says, "Man, it's feeling pretty combustible in here," you know, and then she says...
You know, okay, so Darham, apparently... Whoever wrote this episode didn't get any of the notes from the previous episode where he decided that he gave up his entire planet and gave up his responsibility to them and had his marriage annulled so he can come back to the place where apparently he really thinks he belongs, which is Starfleet Academy, but now he gets into fights. Yeah. Okay, I'm not sure how to connect those two dots.
But then we actually get one of the rare scenes where they're actually doing something you should be doing at an academy, simulation on a bridge. They actually gave us something that was remotely Star Trek related, where they're all arguing. But we get that scene on the bridge where they're all not getting along. But what I find strange about it is the fact Notaro is sat being a sarcastic, annoying self as always in the captain's chair.
Right.
Now, as we know from Wrath of Khan, Saavik sits in the chair as a cadet. Kirk is observing. Spock is there as well, you know, playing his part. Now, that's the whole point of it. So why is Notaro not having one of them command from the captain's chair? I didn't get that. And then she then basically criticizes them all about, well done, you're all rubbish. So they all go off. And then we get Captain Nahla that says, cadets are struggling to get along. The lasting effects of the Miyazaki are still with us. Yeah, that you caused.
Yeah. Well, I think that you know, continuing on from the last episode, I think Tig Notaro is obviously still having problems with her big toe, so she just can't stand in the back. She's got to sit down. And so I guess she figures, you know, you sit down in the captain's chair because it's most comfortable. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm assuming, you know, trying to draw more continuity than I think the writers do. Probably I would think that if any one of the cadets would have been in the captain's chair, it would have been Genesis. Oh, but she got booted out into timeout, you know, the last episode. But you're right. Now, here's the other thing. Now, it was clear to me in this scene, and then it became clear in the scenes where they're all sitting in the class, right?
Yeah.
The thing that just doesn't make, okay, I gave up, let me say, I gave up being totally triggered by all the rampant canon violations after like the second episode. The thing that really triggers me now about this is just the complete lack of internal logic in the stories that they themselves have set up. Okay, so what am I referring to here? Okay, on the Miyazaki, our 6 stars were not the only cadets there on that ship. No. And yet, they're the only ones in the classroom. Apparently, there's no other cadets that need trauma. Yeah. There's no other cadets that need what we'll be talking about, like the theater trauma. Apparently, there's no other cadets who benefit from being on the simulations. Why is this entire, okay, so they basically...
It's like their alpha squad.
Anything that happens can only happen to them. Every other cadet is just background. They might as well be plants. Well, for as all that any other cadet who aren't those 6 have anything to do with this show.
Well, again, you know, you made the point last week, of which you're 100% correct. You mentioned about Jaden's lover in the War College, about he's just a one-dimensional cutout and he's just a throwaway character that has no development whatsoever. He pops up briefly, gives Jaden a peck on the cheek, essentially, and then he goes. And 100% correct, because, again, there's none of them. There's no War College people, as you were saying earlier. It's just literally the Starfleet Academy cadets who seem to get preferential treatment at this academy. I don't understand why.
Yeah, and only those 6. I think actually Kyle's probably the one that gave Jaden the cold, but we won't really get into the details. But we won't get into the details of that.
Oh, I'm going to say something about that cold scene when we get there, mate.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, this is Captain Nahla's quote as well. Okay. And again, for crying out loud, mate, we're not even 10 minutes into the episode yet. And how much info.
Oh, wait a minute. About. And okay. So for Captain Aki, Captain Holly, who stands there, and, you know, if she realizes that they're basically kind of, you know, pushing her away, why doesn't Captain Holly say, you know, I just, you know, you saved all of that. Why doesn't she acknowledge to the princess that, look, you saved all of their lives and they know that, but they're just going through anything like that, where even Captain Holly acknowledges, thank you again for saving all of their lives. Nothing.
Nothing. And, you know, Captain Nahla's quote, she says, trauma counselling doesn't seem to be enough. Our kids need more help. We need more serious reinforcements. I do think we ought to try something weird. Buckle up. She's going to be here any minute. And I'm thinking to myself...
They need theater, John.
Yeah, theater. And it's like, okay. So we then get to the classroom where they're all there, you know, they've got their attitude. And all of a sudden, mate, to make me go to another layer of hell, I hear the wonderful quote, "Oh, you're all still asleep. Wakey, wakey, Ractagino and Bakey." And I'm
John,
like,
I expect to see that on your one of your T-shirts by next week.
And do you know what? I know this doesn't sound right, but when I heard that, all I imagined was me being there, turning around with a harpoon gun and just spearing her to the wall.
Or you know what? Raise your hand and say, how are we expected to learn anything from anybody who would say something so stupid?
Yeah, exactly. And again, so I thought to myself, hang on a minute, you've got completely qualified trauma counselors, but they're not good enough. So what we want to do is we want to get an insufferable woman off another ship to come in and teach them how to get over things.
And wasn't she an engineer? When did she switch from engineering to theater therapy?
Yeah, I was when she starts talking about, Darren says to her, "Sorry, Lieutenant, what does theatre have anything to do with?" And she responds to him, she says, 8 out of 10 cadets ask that question. The other 2 become captains. I was like, yeah, that's not really an answer. You know, it almost sounds like you're just talking bullshit.
And then, you know what, then my response to that would be, I would say, I think we need to adjust the criteria for becoming captains then.
Yeah. Then she responds.
Doesn't that show you, John, doesn't that show you that if that is the criteria for current Starfleet captains, that Starfleet is doomed?
Oh, 100%. This honestly, my view on Earth at this point in our history is it just needs a Genesis torpedo fired onto it and just start again. You know, that's the only way now. Purge. She then says to Darren, and she says to him, she goes, "What if I told you that theatre is one of the most powerful tools for social and political change? They're diplomats, Starfleet officers, and captains and officers. Now, there's a non-interference policy in Starfleet, so they shouldn't be getting involved in social and political change unless you're trying to tell your viewers that they need to be activists that's not connected with the show. Could it be that, mate? Could they be subtly trying to talk to the audience here?"
I think that is one of the several examples in this episode, and one of the many throughout this series, where the writers are so full of themselves and of the importance and of their own self-importance as quote unquote writers, and I put it in big quotes, that they don't even understand that the first principle, or one of the first principles writing, is stop injecting yourself. Stop making yourself the main part of the stories that you write. This is them as, theater kids or whatever going, oh, theater, what we do as actors and writers drives the world. That's their own self-delusion bleeding through into the script.
100%. And I'm going through Star Trek Voyager again at the moment, and I've just hit season 4. But there's examples throughout that season, and throughout Voyager is a great example. And you get it in DS9, you get it in Next Gen as well, where you have characters that have got trauma and PTSD, and they're effectively told that, you've just got to try and push through it. They'll help them, they'll guide them, but they help them with it, and in the end, they have to take a stand. This is, I almost think that you're right about these writers. They're so arrogant. They think everyone's going to love this because the cadets have learned a valuable lesson. They've come through their trauma and they're going to be great Starfleet officers. We've seen nothing of them whatsoever in this entire season that they're going to be outstanding officers, because again, how they even qualified for the Academy is up for discussion, really.
So, John, here's the thing. Here's what these writers would have given us. If these writers had been working for Next Generation, here's what we would have gotten. After the Best of Both Worlds, we would have not have gotten Family, which is one of the great episodes ever of Trek. We would have had the episode after Best of Both Worlds, if it had been done by these writers. You would have had Data come into the captain's office, and he would have said, "Captain, I understand you're still feeling kind of out of sorts after your thing. I have the exact solution. I want you to come down to one of the lounges tonight, and I'm going to stage a play for you, and that's going to help pull you through this trauma of being being locutus. That's basically, it's like, that just points out how ridiculous this premise is. I'm still not sure how reading a play, any play, is going to help them deal with their trauma.
No,
I'm seeing one of their not their classmates, but somebody who they were serving with, murdered in front of them, as well as the guy who was leading them on that exposition, and them being attacked and facing certain death for however long. And this is going to help them deal with that.
It's just absolutely baffling because, to be fair to me, I watched the 2003 version of Our Town after this episode. I thought I'll check that out. Paul Newman was in it.
Oh,
and I thought I'll do my research. I'll check it out because I've never watched it before. But again, bar the scenes with the ghost, with the girl who's a ghost, and doesn't want to move on. So she goes back to her past and there's the memories and the memories hurt. And I get the whole point about they're trying to tell you that life is important. You've got to live in the moment because it can go like that. Fine. That's great. That's great writing from someone who created a play, in 1937, and it's still great today, but not in Star Trek, And the thing is, you imagine, again, any of those classic Star Trek characters, if they'd been told they were in charge of the Academy, they would have come in there and they would have drilled them. They would have dressed them down and they would have said, look, you signed up to the Academy. You signed up to be in Starfleet.
Well, Mr. Southwick, are you going to stay with the sinking ship?
Permission to speak candidly, sir.
Granted.
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities.
And why not?
Because there was no way to win.
A no-win situation is a possibility every commander may face. Has that never occurred to you?
No, sir. It is not.
How we deal with death is at least as important as how we deal with life, wouldn't you say?
As I indicated, Admiral, that thought had not occurred to me.
Well, now you have something new to think about. Carry on.
This is what Starfleet is. It's not all happy, clappy, dancing around. It's dangerous. A lot of the time it's dangerous. Now, if you can't handle that, there's the door. You cannot wallow like this. You are going to lose people from time to time. That's life in space. That's life in Starfleet. Not, Billie Jean got blown out an airlock yesterday. So what we're going to do is we're all going to perform Phantom of the Opera. Okay. and we'll be all right.
I just realized that I don't think it's any mistake that the what's her name, the Jem'Hadar lady, has been totally absent from these last two episodes, and I don't count that little phone thing with Notaro as anything. Because her idea, her way of pushing through this, which is everything you just said, which is probably what that character would do, is these last two episodes have been all about coddling. Have been about, are you still feeling down? Okay, well, you just embrace that and you kind of go do you, and we'll give you some extra dessert tonight and you just kind of go take care of yourself. If you want extra time off, whatever, that's fine. The way that Jem'Hadar character would push these is fundamentally incompatible with that. So I think they had no choice but to just have her nowhere near either of these episodes, because it would raise those questions that you're talking about, John. Wait a minute. These are supposed to be hardened Starfleet officers who are going to encounter Lord knows what out in space. But now it's like it's all about, they're all snowflakes and we have to kind of take care of them and coddle them. And you know what, John, actually, I think if the Jem'Hadar woman would have been in this, she would have been the one, the simulation in the captain's chair. But because 100%. they couldn't fit a square peg into a round hole, where it's all about softness and kind of talking, they thought we can't fit her into this at all. So
I agree 100% on that. I think you're right. That's why they wrote her out of these episodes, essentially. I'm going to give you some dialogue now, mate. Okay, and I want to get your reaction to it and the people watching. Okay, so we get Sam talking to Tamara in their quarters. Okay. And Sam says, I like plays, they're art. They didn't exist until they came out of someone's brain. That's BAFTA award-winning stuff, mate. It really is.
See, that's these writers' idea of grand Star Trek thinking.
That's high art, mate, quite frankly. And then To follow it up, we get Sam again. Sorry, I've learned that I am a lot. On a good day, I'm a little bit much. On rare occasions, I'm whoa, Sam. Slow to impulse. I'm not even up yet, and I just can't with your midday energy before I even pull my underwear out of my butt. What the hell is a hologram wearing underwear for?
And why is a hologram going to bed?
Exactly.
What does she do? Lay there for 8 hours and just stare at the ceiling and do self-diagnostics?
Yeah.
I mean,
I've had people.
Look, it's become clear, and I know you know this, that especially like long-term Trek fans like us and with rational people like us is not the audience. This audience is for people watching it on their phone while they're distracted by 10 other things while they're having a conversation, and they want to they throw in a few lines that maybe they think the kids will relate to and that they think are funny, but again, which makes zero sense if you just apply the logic that this show's asking us to accept. It doesn't make any
doesn't
sense.
work. Doesn't work at all. And it, like you said, you know, they clearly don't follow their own storylines in this show, let alone historic Star Trek. Not at all. I mean, we also get, you know, so we get the scene where Sam collapses, okay, and she's doing her whole sparky, trippy
She's doing like a little Max Headroom thing.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. So do you know what I was thinking? The last time I saw something like that is, I think it was when Rocket in Guardians of the Galaxy shot Peter Quill from distance and he was shivering on the floor. I was really hoping Rocket had fired something at her at that point. You know,
and the effects weren't good for that. It was just,
Well, you know, we then get Nahla's quarters, okay, and we have three of the most insufferable people in one room. So we've got Captain Nahla, we've got Tig Notaro, and we've got Tilly. And Tilly then cuddles Tig Notaro and says, "It's okay to love." And then Tig Notaro responds. This is actually one of the times I agree with Tig Notaro, because she says, is it? Your relentless optimism is nightmarish.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like,
that's probably the best, most accurate. That's the most accurate self-describe.
It works.
And don't forget, John, they're women out of time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dear me. Sufferable. Wow, they should have been sent into
and then all the while Captain Aki is probably like on her 14th bottle of scotch that day.
I made a note of this. I actually do believe that it's written, Captain Nahla, she's written as a pissed up hag. Because
the last three
she swipes that bottle.
She's been
how she swipes the bottle. She goes, what is it? She says, right, what are we having? And she literally grabbed that quick, sharpish, she's on it. But with the three of them there, all I kept thinking of, was Star Trek 6, where Kirk, the Enterprise is battered and they've put the torpedo in the tube and he just goes down and he goes, fire. Fire.
Yeah.
I just want to see a torpedo heading to that room.
You know what scene you thought of Star Trek 6? You know what scene I thought of that they should have been? It would have been good if do like a Jaws Roy Scheider moment where she gives Tig Notaro and Tilly like a little splash, and then she fills her own glass up almost just to the very top, because clearly she's having some problems.
Yeah. Again, then they're talking, and so pissed up Captain Nahla grabs the bottles from her personal bar, and Tilly says, "I read about the Miyazaki. How are they?" Nahla says, "Right in the thick of it." Okay, and then Tig Notaro says, "How does that saying go? It's not the load that breaks you, but how you carry it." Okay, big words being talked about now. Nahla then responds with, "They have no idea how to carry it." Well, that's a failure on you.
Yep.
You're there to teach the cadets.
Yes.
If they haven't, we're 8 episodes in the timeline. What is it? The next episode is basically the teaser for it is it's the end of the semester for the first year. So we're almost at the end of it. And yet you've not taught them that they have to be able to carry the burden of command.
And again, this is where the internal illogic comes in, John, because wouldn't you think that having existed for 400 years, she could come up with a better way to help people process trauma than mounting a play.
I know. She says to Tilly in the same scene, she says, "That's why I called you. They need serious trauma counseling without knowing it's trauma counseling." So they're that stupid, they're that unintelligent that they can't figure out that this is actually counseling wrapped up as theatre production. You know, it's unbelievable. And at the same time, we still see Nahla's walking around barefoot. We're 8 episodes in. She's not going to let it up. You know, she's going to do that till the end of time.
It would have been great in that scene in her office if she would have looked at Nahla. She goes, "Actually, I'm not really here to talk about the kids. I'm here to talk about you and your aversion to ever wearing anything on your feet."
Yeah. And then I've got to say, mate, Notaro says, "Nobody's ever ready, Captain." And Nahla responds with, "Have you met Sam? So joyful." And I'm thinking, these are grounds to remove her from office at this point. It really is.
And again, it's like they've chosen to elevate. I don't know why they have chosen to elevate that character, the Sam character, as, you know, put her on the pedestal every week that they do. That is, I can't even, if I stared at the wall for a day, I wouldn't come up with one reason of why they're worshiping that character as they are. Yeah.
And we jump forward to Tilly, and she's basically doing the start of the teaching. And you've got Jaden talking about his play that he's reading out. And he basically says, "At the climax, as the rival house eats the warrior's stew, you learn that they've been served the hearts and quadri testicles of their fathers before them. So each Klingon has 4 testicles now and 2 penises. So they're like rabbits then. So when they're trying to run into battle, they're literally getting them wrapped around their legs and tripping up now because, you know, that's a disaster waiting to happen, isn't it? You know, unbelievable.
You want to be careful with your swinging your batleth around in battle.
You suddenly become a eunuch.
That redefines self-harm. Yeah, but you know, did it strike you as odd that 2 things about that Jaden scene? It struck me as odd the fact that we have gotten shoved down our throats for 7 episodes that he hates violence, he's a pacifist, he likes to watch birds. Why then is he getting so excited? And excited is like a muted term. Why is he getting so excited talking about this Klingon play with blood and guts and people's heads being ripped off? And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? I thought you were a pacifist. This thing seems to excite you more than anything that all year. And that doesn't track for me. But also, I love the fact that because, and I know what the conversation was like in the writer's room. It was like, okay, what are we going to give Jaden this week to do? Well, there's really nothing we can. We don't really have anything for him. It's like, but we have to come up with a reason to get rid of him. And somebody says, "Oh, well, let's just give him a cold." This is the equivalent, if this was an actual theater play, of The Hook coming out and grabbing him and just pulling him off stage. I actually thought 100%. That was just hilarious because it was so obvious.
Well, I noted it down as well because, you know, Tilly says to him, "Go to your quarters and stay there quarantined until your cold is gone." Well, no. How about how can we say, let's have a holographic doctor who can't get a cold go into his quarters and treat him for the cold, that he can pretty much come back straight away, you know, because unless it's a new cold, we already know from Star Trek, they've cured a lot of colds throughout, certainly in the Next Gen era, and we're 1,000 years on.
But then he shows up at the end of the episode and like the next day, maybe 2 at the outside, and he's just totally fine.
The thing I would say as well about these cadets, I know nothing about what they want to do in Starfleet. I know nothing about their specialities. The only one I know about is Jaden, where he said he wants to be a medical, you know, officer. That's it. We don't see him, you know, apart from on the Miyazaki, where he's literally kissing his lover's leg better instead of fighting. Other than that, we don't see any of it. Caleb is just insufferable. Darum is, you know, the misunderstood jock idiot, you know, that, you know, but will really come through for you. We've got Genesis, who is just perfect, as we've discussed before. She can do absolutely no wrong whatsoever, who said that she wants to be captain. But again, we're not seeing them learning any skills or any specialisms at all. It's all just every single week they roll on with the nonsense. And then you know full well, as we've talked about on the previous episodes, you're going to get to the finales with Bracker will be back. They'll They'll unite. They'll take down Braca. They'll be the big heroes because look what they've overcome after all this year. They've saved the day. That's what's coming. We know that.
Well, I've said I said in a previous episode that the biggest of the many flaws of the writers of this series is I think they are functionally incapable of world building.
Yeah.
They have zero skill at world building, and that extends, and that's going to come up when we hop over to the discussion of the Sam portion of the episode.
Yeah. We'll do that now.
But it just shows that for all of these characters, that their inability to world build extends to lack of character building because they haven't come up with fully formed characters. They've come up with like log lines as the description.
Yes.
Describe Jaden. Oh, he's the gay pacifist Klingon. Oh,
yes.
Genesis. Oh, she's the girl boss with daddy issues. Oh,
yeah.
What's Caleb? Oh, he's the rebel that is trying to find
he
this
can
law.
do everything.
Beyond those little one-line descriptions,
there's nothing. Yeah.
There's nothing because the writers think that that's all that they need, or they think that that's all their intended audience needs, which is even more insult.
Yeah, exactly that. And let's talk about Sam and let's talk about her trip to Kasq.
Do we have to? I guess we have to.
So, mate, first of all, the doctor, after she's glitched, he basically says to her, the patch the holo engineers made has been failing for weeks. Why is this the first that you have come to me? Now, I'm gonna do a Star Trek tech thing, okay? We've had incidents in the Next Generation era before where they've got comm badges and they can actually detect if there's a medical emergency and they can put devices on their neck to detect how they're doing. You're telling me 1,000 years later, where they're wearing comm badges, they don't have like an alert instantly about a medical issue. Like we've got them now with Apple Watches where they can read your blood pressure and do all of that kind of stuff.
Here's the explanation, John. It's the one the writers default to every week. It's the burn. The burn explains everything, John. It's because of the here's the excuse for everything. It's because of the burn. Just repeat those 4 words with me, John.
It's because of the burn.
There you go.
So we get the fact that Nahla says you're not a machine, Sam. Well, she is technically a machine.
Okay, let's go with that for a moment, John. If she's not a machine, they talk about her processors were overloading. How can you have processors if you're a hologram? She's not data.
No.
Although the writers, I seriously, I do believe the writers treat her like data, not only in her, she's the outsider looking in on humanity, but they actually write her, John, as a robot. They are writing her as a robot and not as just a being made of light, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, also they keep also mentioning about the fact that, there's holographic and there's photonic. There's no difference between the two whatsoever. They're holograms. You can word it as much as you want, but there's absolutely nothing there. But, the doctor says each glitch causes her reset circuit, causing a glitch. It's self-generating. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you, mate, why do they need to take a shuttle back to Kasq? That's the first part of the question. The second bit is, why didn't she go back to Kasq in the first place instead of going to this flipping skin wrap holo spa that she's been going to, but they said several times and the doctor knew about it? Why wouldn't the doctor be saying, why are you going to the spa? Why aren't you going back to Kasq? And then the thing that really irks me with it again, these people are so lazy. We know from Star Trek Voyager in season 6 or 7, the doctor is beamed from the Delta Quadrant to the Alpha Quadrant to treat his dying creator. And then he beams back. And we also have instance where, there's a hologram of Barclay that's beamed across to the Delta Quadrant. But the tech is there in the Next Generation era. So 1,000 years later, why are they having to take a shuttle? Why can't they just transmit the data straight across to Kasq? Because we've already seen in the episodes previously I'm trying to get it out of my mind, the DS9 one. She's talking to her people remotely in the academy. So
my answer to all those questions, John, is the same. Squirrel.
Yeah.
They don't. She shouldn't have processors when she's a hologram. The doctor should be able to, they should just all beam there immediately. I find it interesting that with all these problems that going on at the Academy, or the fact that not even problems, responsibilities at the Academy, that the Academy can get along fine with the chancellor and the chief medical officer going away just to help this one cadet. It's like, wow, your role there must be a lot less complicated than we think it is if they can spare you.
Yeah,
like that.
And also it's when we get to Kasq, I laughed at this, and I remember saying to Brian in the week as well. I said to him about the fact that I know why they've done it, because production costs. They've made Kasq look like the Academy because they want to save money. They haven't got to build a new set. But you're meant to be a holographic civilization, but you're not. There's nobody walking around. There's no corporeal form from physical bodies. It's all like cloud entities. So it's not holographic then, is it? This is another thing that's baffling.
To me, I'm sure budget was a reason, yes. But I choose to believe that in this instance, the budget was probably a great excuse for the writers once again being completely incapable of world building. Wouldn't it be interesting to see what a planet's interior looks like on a planet that is apparently out of phase with the rest of the universe, and as you just said, is populated by these mysterious holographic beings? But because these writers probably were heaved a huge sigh of relief that they wouldn't actually have to come up with anything remotely interesting. Let's just have it be a cube in space and we're good to go.
Exactly.
And then we can underlight everything else and that will seem mysterious. But again, to me, I'm defaulting to it. Just the show doesn't have any imagination because the writers don't have any imagination. And with Sam, a couple general thoughts about when she's in with the doctor and he's kind of going, "Why didn't you tell me?" For the first time, I realized that this med bay looks like an Apple store. You ever realize that the construction it looks like you're walking to an Apple store? Yeah. Anyway, with Sam. So Sam to me is still the absolute worst character on the show.
Oh, without a doubt.
Sam is insufferable to me. And the scene with the doctor on the shuttle where she's going, I want to eat 12 hot dogs in a row. I want to hop around on the floor on my butt. I want to fall. None of that works because I'm sorry, she is a terrible actor.
Unbelievably bad.
And you cannot have, if you have a character that is insufferable, done by a terrible actor, no scenes are going to work with her at all.
I agree. She is by far the worst. And that's saying something in this series. It really is, because Nahla's not far behind, which amazes me because that's Holly Hunter. She is terrible. But when we get to this scene...
said, you call her the cat lady, which she's lean. I think about that every week now when I watch her, and I think, boy, that's so right. That's so true.
It is. And we then get to this point where, and again, we're going to talk about this, mate. So they establish neatly the fact that she's dying, but she needs someone to parent her because she's got to effectively be born again, which coincidentally will be 17 years. So she'll be able to come back just at the exact right age to be able to go back to the academy, and she'll have two lives. So she'll have her childhood and then she'll have her previous life at the academy all fused into one. So we then get this scene where the doctor's talking about, and again, I've just done season 3. And Monday, ironically, it was the episode School Ties that they referenced, which was, and I've watched it so many times, where he references about he lost his daughter and he never wants to deal with that trauma again. Now, in that episode, and it's called Family Ties, I believe. So he's created a holographic family. So he's got the wife and the daughter.
Right.
And we know from that episode that is very, very recent because he invites B'Elanna Torres to go and meet his family and have a meal with them for the first time. So she then messes with it so that they become a bit more rowdy and it's not as perfect a life as he was thinking. So we get to the end of the episode and I think, off the top of my head, I think she dies because she plays Breesy squares and bangs her head. So she dies, and then we get a reference to it where they conveniently cut out the mother and the son from the clip from Voyager. And I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense. Again, this is made by people who haven't literally, you've said it before, they've gone on Grok or ChatGPT or Wikipedia and they've gone, right, give me some details about the Doctor through Star Trek history. They've found that bit and they've gone, we'll go with that. Yep. But the fact of the matter is, we have a later episode in a few seasons' time with Voyager where the Doctor lives for centuries on a planet, which he references, which has got a tachyon core.
Yeah, that's called blink of an eye.
Exactly. And when he comes back to the ship, he actually makes the point that he has a son.
Find out what happened to a boy named Jason Tabriz. He lived in the Central Protectorate.
Jason, an unusual name.
Yes. He was my son.
But they sort of sugarcoat it and they basically say, oh, you know, he says, oh, but, you know, I can't talk about it because obviously the question is, how can a hologram have a son? So he's already moved on from that point, and that's in Voyager. Also, when we get to the final episode of Voyager, in the alternate reality where you've got old Janeway, when they're at the 20-year reunion where they've come back to Earth, he's married to a human woman and he's called himself Joe. So what I'm trying to set up here, mate, is just to say, again, they are lazy. They have not referenced Star Trek correctly. If we were going to do it, if any decent or competent writer was going to do it, and I'm not saying I'm a competent writer, but even I can figure it out, and you would as well, you would think, well, we can't do that because it doesn't work with the history of Star Trek and the character.
Yes. Well, okay. First of all, expecting, as I've already said, expecting this writing team to hew to the history of Star Trek is a fool's errand. But again, it's a problem of they go for an easy solution or an easy option without thinking about the implications of their choices.
100%.
So we're being asked to believe here that the Doctor is so is made so broken or uneasy or whatever you need to describe it, about a situation that happens 800 years before. But in the intervening 4 seasons, right after it originally happened, he was fine.
No reference. Yeah. He
I mean, you would think it would be the
character.
exact opposite, that all the immediate trauma would be right after it happened as he deals with it, but we didn't see 2 seconds of him dealing with it. But he was fine right after it happened. But now 800 years later, all that backed up trauma now is totally no. But again, the writers aren't thinking about, nobody's asking those kind of like, wait a minute questions in the
no. And again, mate,
in the writer's room.
And again, you're right on that, because the thing is about supposedly he's mourning and he's traumatized from what happened. That one incident with where he loses his daughter there, we have no reference again to his holographic wife or his holographic son.
Yep.
So where he says, oh, I can't raise anyone again, you still had a son. So what did you do? Did you abandon the son and the wife then? You know, again, plot holes everywhere.
Well, I don't want to get close to everybody. He became Seven's mentor in many ways.
He did.
Kasq, I think, was still there when that episode was going on. So again, it's like these writers are coming up with what I think they're ingenious solutions, and they're basically coming up with all the member berries that they think will satisfy the crowd. But in terms of just crafting a cohesive story, they miss the beat every time.
Absolutely. And we then go back to the Academy, as you were saying, mate, and everybody is hugging Sam and fist pumping Sam because she's back, and she's like, you know, I think they're trying to make us feel that emotionally she's the heart of the Cadet, she's the heart of the Academy. And it's
well, if that's true, then they're all doomed.
Yeah, exactly. The Star Trek Academy episode 8, let's give it a score out of 10, mate.
Before we do that, just a couple of quick points. First of all, I think it's probably going to come out in the next couple episodes that the Doctor having to deal and interact only with Sam for 17 years has driven him completely insane. I think that would be a very logical plot point.
Either that or he's breakdancing with her.
You know, you talked about bad dialogue. I wrote, and I know that you had a couple of examples of the dialogue that just kind of hit you like a bat to the face. I can't. The one that I went for is Caleb's one, where he's sitting there and he's having that interaction with the Tarima, who's trying to act drunk.
Yeah.
And he's talking about, the blockade of cerebral blood flow, and you fight it until your brain dilates like a blood vessel, and then the next thing you know, your bed is made so tight that you'd survive in the vacuum of space. Now, John, I don't know about you. I was sitting there going, what? In the hell does any of that even mean? But again, it's these writers thinking that it's Star Trek, so they're coming up with this pseudo-pretentious gobbledygook, and nobody is telling them it's not deep. It's just garbage.
It's absolute garbage.
And nobody tells them that. My last two thoughts before we get to grading this, I thought, look, if they want to teach Sam mental resilience, just show her the last 2 seasons of Doctor Who. I think that's the ultimate test of mental resilience at all.
Start glitching again, mate.
But and so I'm confused by the solution of the Kasqians, or whatever we call them. So basically, because she's glitching, because her internal processors can't, because she needs a childhood to process her experiences. So your solution to that is to give her 2 sets of conflicting memories.
Yeah,
that she will have to process on a dual track.
So she's not going to go insane.
And that's your optimal solution, to give her 2 sets of conflicting memories.
Yeah.
And you think that it's like job done. That seems to me to be kind of questionable. But
absolutely.
And lastly about Sam, because my mind wandered, as I'm sure yours does, during the course of watching one of these things. And when I realized, look, I'm not buying this because she just, the actress playing Sam just can't sell it. She's a bad actor. I started just thinking about other young female characters who I think were better actors with more believable characters than Sam. And I came up with the robot girl from Small Wonder, who I think is more believable to me than Sam is. Punky Brewster, who she had the dog, but that was annoying, but I still think she's better. And the twins from Full House. I would take any of those young female actors as more competent than what we're getting from Sam.
I mean, you just quickly as well, you just reminded me as well about this episode. We get Tamara and Caleb where they meet up at the same facility again, okay? And she makes a move on him and she basically wants to have sex with him in that area. And I'm thinking to myself, this is meant to be an operational starship. Does nobody ever seal any areas off whatsoever? It's like, you didn't go walk around the next gen, or Voyager, and they were cracking on. There was one point in Voyager where Aris and Torres were making out, and Janeway, she's got things in her head making her get angry at that in that episode, but she literally chews them one and basically says, "Start acting like officers," And again, Caleb, what he says in this episode, he comes down the stairs to talk to her, and he says, "Look, I sound like an asshole, but I don't really know what to say. Do you need anything?" Well, hang on a minute, mate. Maybe she's not talking to you because you went an entire month without even messaging her when she recovered from a coma. Could that be a reason? No, possibly.
Again, yeah. It just okay. But all right, so let's do the
scores. So, what would you give it out of 10, mate?
All right, I'm actually going to surprise you. I thought that Bob Picardo overall, again, with the given that they're dealing with completely substandard scripts.
Yeah.
I thought that he really was trying hard to kind of sell, even though as you've discussed, it doesn't really track.
Yeah.
But what he was given to sell in terms of his trauma, his not wanting to open himself up again, and kind of doing that, I thought he actually did a good job on that.
Yeah.
I actually thought the young actress playing Tarima, even though she shouldn't do any more kind of faux drunk scenes, I thought, for example, the final confrontation with Tilly, where, I don't want to be the ghost girl. I thought that I believed that. I thought she sold that to me very honestly and putting it all out there on the table. Again, to reinforce my idea that I think these young actors, the cast, for the most part, I think is good. They're just not being given anything to work with. And I think actually, but she did, I think, as good as it was possible to do in that scene.
Yeah.
On the other side, you have them, the writers took away my one moment of pure unadulterated joy in this episode when the Kasqians shut down Sam. So we can't save her, terminate. Jon, I leapt out of my chair, only to be cruelly betrayed a couple of scenes later when I found out that no, she wasn't completely gone.
She returned.
So because there were a couple things that I did rate as decent efforts in this, I will give this. It's still I can't even go even halfway. I'll give it a 3 out of 10.
3, yeah. For me, I actually give it a 1 out of 10. I just. Again, I've said it on so many of the episodes, but this one really was an episode where there was no stakes in it. There was no development. There wasn't even a thread to lead into a future episode where you think, oh, maybe they're leading to somewhere. It was just a stale episode where I thought to myself, it's almost like I've driven past California College in my car, and I've just seen some students just acting out a play, an amateur play, and this has nothing to do with Star Trek whatsoever.
Oh, no. I'm actually going to downgrade to 2. I'm going to give 1 point for Picardo, 1 point for the actress. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. It plays Tarima. So I'll shift it from a 3 down to a 2, but that would be my final.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a 1 out of 10 for me. One thing I will say that is impressive about Star Trek Academy, when I think I've seen the worst episode, it still manages to go lower every single week. It's impressive. It really is on another level on that front.
And I sent you the synopsis for what we're going to get this week, and it's going to be more Caleb talking about his missing mommy.
Oh, I watched what you sent me, mate, and I knew it was coming. It makes me shiver. So that's going to be insufferable. That could break the record. That one actually, that could potentially do it. But before we go as well, I just wanted to read out some comments from episode 7 quickly. So again, there's some great people on the channel that are putting out some great comments.
Absolutely. We love reading the comments, so please keep that up.
Yeah. We've got R. Martin 76. So a Starfleet Academy series would have made sense in the early noughties when CW type shows were hot. Mm-hmm. That audience doesn't exist anymore. You can easily do a show set at an academy that is fun and has stakes. Just look at Wednesday or Umbrella Academy. Mm-hmm. You can do the classic, the kids are uncovering a big secret and the adults don't believe them trope. Easy. So damn easy to write a Trek series set at the academy. So that's a great comment. Thanks, R. Martin 76. Planet X87 says, so are the Kionians supposed to have some sort of shape-shifting abilities in order to look human? And said, sorry, I doze off during this show, Academy, and don't really feel like spending the time on a second watch. I feel your pain, my friend. You're absolutely right. I mean, we talked about it in episode 7 review, and we talked about the fact that he's made himself look human for while he's at the academy, and obviously they've done it for budgetary reasons. Yeah. But when you're going to their home world and their moon, why are they not looking like the species that they are?
It contributes. And I know we both know how many tens of millions they're spending on this show, but stuff like that just makes the show feel cheap.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a lot of people saying, gay seems to be the core of Star Trek now. The future is everyone is gay, which begs the question, how do we maintain our population? Which is a very valid point. But this lot, they'll write a little line in to basically say that they have bio babies now or something like that. They've got Borg tech that's done it. That's what they would go with. I think keep the comments coming because we're really enjoying reading them out.
We do.
And I would say as well, thank you for the support on the channel. We have a lot of fun doing this. Misery loves company, and me and Gary certainly have been through misery.
Fun.
Yeah. And again, just if I could ask you to do anything, just watch our videos, like and comment on them, because it really helps the algorithm and helps grow the channel. We've got more stuff coming as well, but in the comments, write back to us and let us know anything you want us to talk about, any shows or movies you want us to discuss and review. We're happy to do that. So, until we hear from you after this review, which could be a banger, I reckon, all I would say is look after yourselves. But Gary, before we go, just let everyone else know where you can be found, mate.
I can be found in therapy myself on every Wednesday now. I've set that up to be to get me mentally ready for watching the next.
He's doing well,
Academy
everyone.
episode.
He's doing well.
Yes. You can see me on Type 40 talking Doctor Who on Thursdays, and the Space Book on Saturday talking everything else. And also here on this channel on Sundays, talking about some other lesser science fiction.
Don't you dare say lesser. How dare you? We're talking about Stargate and Supernatural.
Yes.
You should feel ashamed. But no, that's it. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week for the next Academy review. But until then, stay safe, everyone, and look after yourselves. See ya. Bye.
Bye.